I'm sure you've all seen the memes recently. Cabba versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. The joke has been around for quite a bit, but came back. Although, is it even a joke? Is it truth? As a brief history lesson, this initially kinda started with people putting Cabba against Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Whenever a poll like this appeared, Gohan would win since people just liked him more. In reality, Cabba was far stronger. So people started pushing further, wanting to show how absurd super scaling was. I even made a YouTube short a while back talking about how Cabba could solo Dragon Ball Z, but let's go further. GT. Would he be able to beat Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta? It depends on how you view some specific things, so let me explain. We'll start by actually covering Cabba first. Where does he scale? We'll use anime Cabba because that's usually what people use and it's the version more people are familiar with. And most importantly, it's the one with the most absurd scaling. And we're using U6 Tournament Cabba, by the way. In base 2. Cabba fights with Vegeta and it's pretty straightforward. We're ignoring the Super Saiyan portion of this fight because people talk about base Cabba versus Gogeta, so we're going to use that. He contends evenly with Vegeta here. This isn't an inference, Vegeta blatantly says it. He has no reason to lie, he's not being hyperbolic, and based on Cabba's power, he assumes he could casually use Super Saiyan and go beyond this level as well. There's an argument that Cabba is weaker because of him seemingly showing more effort, but it's a bit disingenuous to say that in my opinion. I've only seen this argument because Cabba has a single bead of sweat and seems nervous. I don't think this is a smoking gun, especially because, in terms of raw power, Vegeta did blatantly state that they're even, and their beams were evenly clashing too. So we have visual proof and a statement. Cabba is clearly a very awkward and anxious person based on any other scene we've seen him in, so this is just his personality showing. You could even see right after the clash, he's normal. He wasn't really stressing himself too much. He was just in a high-level battle against an unfamiliar opponent, and at that point, that was his full power. So it makes sense he'd be nervous clashing with someone at full power, especially seeing that he was on even footing. Okay, so that establishes a baseline. What's the big deal? He could fight base Vegeta, so how did that translate to him beating all of GT, much less the rest of Z? Well, now the discussion becomes how strong is base Vegeta. We're more focused on Vegeta scaling here because Cabba on base Vegeta's level has huge implications. So Vegeta at this point just trained for 3 years in the time chamber with Goku. Pretty straightforward, he's above his Resurrection F self, probably by a decent margin too. As of Resurrection F, Goku and Vegeta are standing on equal footing. Nothing suggests one is objectively above the other, and if so, the gap would be minimal. By all accounts, the two are pretty much even. So here's the scaling so far. Cabba equals Vegeta, who is above Resurrection F Vegeta, who is equal to Resurrection F Goku. Now this is where the fun begins. The point we're at now is the crux of this entire argument. Everything is based on this. Does base Goku and Resurrection F outscale Super Saiyan God Goku in Battle of Gods? Well, it's a bit strange to explain, but there is a very solid argument for this. So back in Resurrection F, things work differently. You might remember that Super Saiyan God never reappeared in the anime until the Tournament of Power. Before then, the form just disappeared, and not because it was just straight up forgotten, but rather it just worked differently. In the anime, for example, Beerus flat out tells Goku that the Super Saiyan God form disappeared, but the power did remain. That's because Goku absorbed the power of Super Saiyan God into his regular self. And this is consistent with Resurrection F later on, both in the film version and how it's framed in the anime. For the Resurrection F film, there was also an art book that states Goku and Vegeta can use the power of Super Saiyan God in base, and when they transform into Super Saiyan, that's how they become Super Saiyan Blue. The movie and the anime have some differences, but overall the anime is meant to follow Toriyama's outlines, and in terms of how the forms work, it seems pretty consistent. The important story beats are still the same, and we are still following the movie arcs at this point in the story. And like I said, that statement from Beerus about Goku absorbing the power into his base, that was from the anime after all. So it seems pretty consistent with that movie statement. Toriyama also did confirm in a Battle of Gods interview that Goku did absorb this power. So in both the anime and the film versions of Battle of Gods, this is consistent, and it seems to line up with what happened in Resurrection F in the anime. The issue with this is that nothing was planned out after this, but at the time, this was the intention. As of now, it seemingly works different. For the anime, Super Saiyan God eventually returned during the Tournament of Power when Goku used it. For Vegeta, outside of the manga version of the story, he never used Super Saiyan God until Broly. So what we could take from this is, at the time of release, the intent was to have base Goku and Resurrection F be fighting at least the level of Battle of Gods Goku. At the end of that arc, he's fighting in Super Saiyan, which has a multiplier of 50. So that means at minimum, for base Goku to fight on par with his Battle of Gods self, he's at least 50 times stronger, using that regular Super Saiyan multiplier. This can go higher, but we're using minimums here. So this means for scaling, Cabba equals U6 Vegeta, who is above Resurrection F Vegeta, although we're not sure by how much, and that Vegeta is equal to Resurrection F Goku, who is at least 50 times stronger than the end of Battle of Gods Goku, that Goku of which broke his limits and went beyond Super Saiyan God Goku. And just for frame of reference, Super Saiyan God is far beyond Vegito's power. Goku thought a hypothetical Vegito at that point wouldn't do anything of significance in terms of power to Beerus. Yet of course, Super Saiyan God Goku was able to. In Goku's mind, the strongest thing he could think of was probably a Super Saiyan 3 Vegito. which would mean Super Saiyan God Goku at this point is at least significantly above Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, a hypothetical Battle of Gods version specifically, which would obviously be stronger than Super Vegeta from the Buu saga. Okay, now we have that scaling change, so let's move forward. Why is it so impressive to be above Super Saiyan God Goku? Well, in the anime, he was contending with a suppressed Beerus, clashing evenly. This isn't to say they're equal, not at all. He's equal with a suppressed Beerus, a heavily suppressed Beerus. You can see their attacks are clashing with equal force, and Goku is countering his attacks equally. So yes, Beerus is a lot stronger, but he still is in a heavily suppressed state. And we can't attribute all the power to Beerus because otherwise he would just win outright. Anyways, multiple times this battle was stated to be threatening the entire universe. So, Goku's universal? Nope, better. Dragon Ball's universe has multiple infinite realms, so destroying one universe in Dragon Ball is like destroying a few actual universes worth of things. Super Saiyan God Goku in Battle of Gods is low multiversal, with attacks fast enough that they could travel from one edge of the universe to another in a short time to destroy it, because Earth is basically at the edge of that universe. That would mean the speed of his attacks has to be hundreds of octillions the times of speed of light. And here's 1 octillion on screen just for reference, and that's how many times the speed of light it's going. Probably even faster. So that means Cabba is likely hundreds of times beyond this level at minimum. Getting an exact estimate of how much Goku and Vegeta grew in the Room of Spirit of Time is tough, and even between Resurrection F and Battle of Gods we can't say for certain. But add that into the minimum 50 times multiplier that I mentioned before, and the fact that they were training for 3 years, plus all that time on Beerus' planet, and yeah, Cabba is absurd. But what about Gogeta? So this is actually much more straightforward. For Cabba we needed some history, but for Gogeta, we could just go right into it. There's a few extra things I'll need to cover, but it's not going to be as convoluted. GT follows Dragon Ball Z's anime, which is way higher in terms of scaling. Meanwhile, Dragon Ball Super does not follow the Dragon Ball Z anime. Rather, it more closely follows Dragon Ball Z Kai, and is a lot closer to the manga events. There are still some slight differences, but even though that sounds like a weird distinction, it's important, because the Toei version of the Dragon Ball story with the Dragon Ball Z anime has way different scaling. It has entire original arcs and a bunch of other types of filler, and a bunch of different statements that change scaling. This is stuff that's not present in the manga, or even Kai. GT is a direct sequel to the Dragon Ball Z anime. Keep that in mind. So first off, Gogeta has multiple things that upscales him to low multiverse level, but we don't even need that. His own feats get him there. Omega Shenron alone is low multiversal because he threatened to destroy the universe in GT, which of course included all the realms within it. The minus energy ball was going to destroy that, and Gogeta not only stopped it, but he completely purified it with just a single kick. By default, this places Gogeta at multiple times beyond that same level Super Saiyan God Goku was at, but GT hits this feat way earlier on since it follows Dragon Ball Z's anime. In that anime, Kid Buu threatened to destroy the Kaioshin realm, which places Kid Buu at Universal. Yes, you heard me right, that sounds nuts, but the anime scaling is nuts compared to the manga. That is an infinite universal-sized realm he's threatening to destroy. And Kid Buu surpassed pretty early on in GT by Rildo. That upscales base Goku to this level, and of course Gogeta is an even stronger Goku and Vegeta transformed, added together, then multiplied. And with another multiplier on top of that. As for speed, in the Z anime, there's a really impressive feat before the Buu saga even rolls around, which is funny. Goku and Pikkon fly from Grand Kai's planet to Hell. They're crossing an infinite realm here, and it's not like they took a while to do this either. They did it pretty quickly. They're flying at infinite speed, and Gogeta is way beyond this given the gap in time. So now on to the actual fight. Gogeta is way faster than Cabba, and is also a better fighter. Cabba is really fast, I mean, you saw what I mentioned before, but Gogeta should be at infinite speed. Cabba is a pretty experienced warrior, but not on the level of Goku and Vegeta. And even if we use Super Saiyan 2 Cabba from the Tournament of Power, it probably won't change much either. Based on what Super Saiyan 4 Goku did against Baby, Gogeta could also absorb ki attacks. And just overall, he has a much better moveset, better abilities, and way more experience. Even if Cabba runs out the clock and Gogeta defuses, even the 2 Super Saiyan 4 should stand a chance. Especially with the DBZ anime scaling backing this up, Gogeta is really strong, but even when we ignore that and just look at the battle between Omega and Gogeta in a vacuum, he's still really strong. I think the only possible way this could be close is if we use Super Saiyan 2 Tournament of Power Cabba, and we ignore Dragon Ball Z anime scaling, which would be pretty disingenuous to do because it is canon to GT's canon. And even there, if we're just looking at Gogeta's feats in a vacuum and ignoring the Dragon Ball Z stuff that I mentioned, still, he's a really impressive fighter. So if we take that Dragon Ball Super scaling at face value, Cabba probably won't be winning, but putting up a fight here is still really impressive, and he's really strong. He's cracked. He can even solo Dragon Ball Z because, by default, he is significantly beyond Vegeta, as we mentioned with Goku scaling. But while Cabba's scaling is good, it's unfortunately too vague to suggest that he's on the level of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and Gogeta has all the abilities and such to back himself up. I think it's true that some Dragon Ball Super characters are underestimated at points, but more so, people really underestimate GT. GT could also be ranked even higher using the argument that the Battle of God movie is part of that timeline, which is another can of worms, but we're ignoring that here because regardless, Gogeta is still really strong. You don't even need that argument. It's mostly a byproduct of how absurd Toei's Dragon Ball Z is, but Toei's Dragon Ball Super is also absurd in scaling. So at the end of the day, I guess Toei just makes everyone really strong. But what do you think? Let me know below. As usual, I know it's a power scaling video, so be civil in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.